Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the American Lung Association in Delaware, thank you for joining us today. My name is Deb Brown, and I'm the President and CEO for the American Lung Association of the Mid-Atlantic. I want to first thank our Healthy Air champion, Senator Tom Carper, for being here with us today. As we come off of National Women's Lung Health Week, the American Lung Association thanks you for recognizing the importance of lung health and healthy air, not only here in Delaware, but across the nation. I also want to say thanks to the Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control, Secretary Sean Garvin, for being here today. I also want to thank his staff for doing such a great job of getting us all in here, getting things set up, and hopefully you're all noticing the balloons. They're the color of our air quality days, letting us know if it's a good day or an unhealthy day, and so we're very happy to see that. Thank you. I also want to thank Dr. Rizzo for joining us today to reinforce the importance of the Clean Air Act and the message of how air pollution impacts everyone's health, our families, our friends, and our neighbors. So we appreciate you being here with us in this unique location, the Martin Luther King Boulevard Air Quality Monitoring Station. We'll invite you to tour the facility afterwards if you're interested. So first, it's my honor to introduce the top Democrat on the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, Senator Tom Carper, who's joining us to talk a little bit about the Clean Air Act, a key federal law that has led to tremendous progress here in Delaware's air quality. So I'm going to turn it over to Senator Carper.
Please hold your applause. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
It's a lazy summer afternoon by the river, close to the riverfront. We got to do an event earlier, Sean, Dr. Rizzo, down by the riverfront. And we renamed the Riverwalk after Mike Przicki, who's been our executive director for the Riverfront Corporation for a number of years. Did a great job. And he found a new job, I think, mayor of Wilmington, but they put a big plaque, big signs out, and so they named it after him. And somebody said to me later after the event was over, they asked me to name some of the things. What are some of the things in Delaware that have been named after me? I've been treasurer, congressman, governor, senator, retired Navy captain. He said, well, what are some of the things that are named after you? And I thought, and Gavin, and then I remembered. There's a combined water sewer overflow onto the city of Wilmington that bears my name. And so that's pretty much it. But I'm still young, so maybe we'll find some other things here. It's a great day. It's a great day to be alive. Beautiful day. A little warm, but nice breeze, and happy. Got plenty of blue skies up there, and we are near the riverfront, so that's very, very special. I love working for Deb here in the American Lung Association, and have the privilege of being a senior Democrat on Environment and Public Works Committee, and has been, I think, probably all my 16 years in the Senate as a person who's focused on air and the quality of air. We have a subcommittee on Environment and Public Works Committee called Clean Air and Nuclear Safety, and I've had a chance to lead that committee and as either a Democrat or ranking Democrat, the chairman or whatever. So this is something that I spend a lot of time on, care a whole lot about. Nobody wants to breathe dirty air. I've never talked to one person that I want to breathe dirty air. I don't think anybody wants to drink dirty water. At least I've not talked to anybody who wants to drink dirty water. And in this country, if you go back to 1970, we had really dirty air and we had really dirty water. And some of you remember that I was at Ohio State at the time, but as midshipman. But we had a river up in Cleveland, Cuyahoga River, that caught on fire a time or two. And I remember I like to run. I remember running in California. I was stationed in the Navy when we went overseas, no war, Vietnam War. But I can remember running around California, and L.A. and some other places. I know I did more damage to my lungs than I did good for my body on those days that I ran there. And we created the Environmental Protection Agency, passed the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act. And one of the guys who was actually very much involved in this in a leadership role, of all people, was Richard Nixon. And not many Democrats quote Richard Nixon, but I do. And I remember Richard Nixon today with this quote. And he said, the only people who don't make mistakes are the people who don't do anything. Think about that. Pretty good, huh? The only people who don't make mistakes are the people who don't do anything. And he made some mistakes, but among the good things that were done under his watch were the creation of EPA and the passage of Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act. And they've continued to evolve and over time, and we have a chance to see what's resulted from that legislation and from a really kind of a unique federal-state partnership. I think we call it federalism, that has been with us for a long time and continues to bear fruit. I'm looking here at my notes that somewhere it's not just since the passage of the Clean Air Act or Clean Water Act, but more recently, since the state of Delaware participated in something called the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. Most of it is called just RGGI. But we have seen, because of the really coordinated efforts here in this part of the U.S. from about, I want to say 10 or so states that are part of it. But we've seen the carbon pollution in our state reduced by about 50%, 51% in fact. And we've driven almost $100 million in local investments in clean energy and and energy efficiency, and provided billions in long-term savings on our energy bills. That's a pretty good win-win-win situation. Some people say you can't have cleaner air, clean water, and have a stronger economy. That is, in Joe Biden's terms, malarkey. It's untrue. And we have, I'm born in West Virginia. Dad was a coal miner for a short while coming out of high school before he went off to serve in World War II. He served as a coal miner long enough to know that's not what he wanted to do for a living. It's a hard way to earn a living. And today there are about 70,000 people, 75,000 people who work in the coal mining industry. About half of those, I'm told, are coal miners. There are about 3 million people in this country who work in the clean energy, sustainable energy field. Think about that. About 3 million. 75,000 folks who work in the coal mining industry, and about 3 million who work in clean energy, sustainable energy. Last year, about 70,000 new jobs in the clean energy, sustainable energy arena were created. So when somebody says to you, well, you can't have cleaner air, cleaner water, and have jobs, tell them what Joe Biden would say. Malarkey. That's malarkey. We can have both, and we have both. That doesn't mean it shouldn't help the coal miners in West Virginia, where I was born, and other places where they've been dislocated and lost their income. We have an obligation, a moral obligation to help them. And I've been very much involved in that, and I hope we'll continue to do that until everybody who needs a job, wants a job, has a job. The last thing I want to say is the fellow who held Sean's position. I just want to congratulate Sean again for taking this on. We worked with Sean when he had served with Joe Biden in the Senate. We worked with Sean when he was our Region 3 EPA administrator. Now we're delighted that he's here. I think the governor made a great choice in asking Sean to head up Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control, where he can work for Ollie. And I'm told Ollie said to me, you're doing a good job, and he says we're thinking of keeping him on a while longer and see how it works out. But Sean, in his role as EPA Region 3 administrator, and long before that, he understands that pollution that emanates from one state, in one place in one state, doesn't necessarily stay there. It's pollution, whether it's air pollution, water pollution, does not respect state boundaries. It moves around. And when I was privileged to be governor of the state from '93 to 2001, we had always had problems being out of compliance in terms of clean air, quality and metrics. And at one point in time, I still said, we could basically shut down the state, closed all of our business, closed all our factories and so forth, all the cars, trucks, vans off the road. We would have still been out of compliance in a number of clean air metrics because of the pollution that comes not from Delaware, but mostly to the west of us, from our neighbors, places like Kentucky and Tennessee and Indiana and Illinois, Ohio, and others, and even Maryland. And the air pollution goes up in the air and comes over to us, and we breathe it. That's no good. That's no good. And one of the ways to make sure that we address that is to pass the legislation. We passed it, and there's a rule, at least a reg, that's being defended in the courts right now on cross-border movement of polluted air, and hopefully we'll end up in the right place at that time. Last thing I'll say is somebody once used to say to me, Deb, he said, to understand where a person's heart is, we'll look to see how they spend their money. You want to know where a person's heart is, so watch to see how they spend their money. And we have a new president, new administration, and their heart is not with clean air, and apparently their heart is not much with clean water. Their heart is not with combating climate change, because when you look at their budget, their proposed budget, their skinny budget, they largely eliminated federal funding for those programs. And we passed a spending plan for the balance of the fiscal year that carries us until the end of September. We rejected what the administration wanted to do on clean air, clean water, and science, what they want to do on science in a variety of places, and also on climate change. We'll have a chance to go to that battle again. We have a new budget coming from this administration for the next fiscal year starting on October 1st. We'll see what they want to do then. My guess it'll be more of the same. And we have that Constitution they passed up in Philadelphia all those years ago. We ratified here, became the first state. But the Constitution, great document, skillfully put together, has all these checks and balances, so that the one thing that they didn't want to see happen at the Constitutional Convention in 1787, one thing they agreed on: they didn't want to have a king. They did not want to have a king. So we have all these checks and balances, and it's not a perfect system, but for the most part it seems to work, and hopefully it'll continue to work. And with that, let me give the podium, the microphone back to the one, the only, Deb Brown from the Delaware Association of the ALI. Deb.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Rizzo, thank you so much for all you do. And thank you very much for joining us here today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Carper, for all that you've done and for your continuation of leading the fight for healthy air here in Delaware, and so that all of us can breathe healthier air. So it's now my honor to introduce the Secretary of the Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control, Secretary Sean Garvin.
Hi, Sean.
Thank you very much, Deb. Dr. Rizzo, Senator, it's always a pleasure. So I was really trying to make the naming today for Mayor Purzycki now. But today for me is Air Day. So I started off this morning going to the Sustainable Energy Utility Board meeting, in which looking to figure out how best to integrate renewable energies and things into our state. And then you mentioned RGGI. So I actually left the RGGI meeting a little bit early so that I could join you here, which is also looking at how we best invest, how we reduce our carbon footprint here in the state and really in the mid-Atlantic and northeast of the country. And it really goes down to how are we investing in our families, how are we investing in our children. So if you're doing a stormwater event, most people like to have it nice and sunny because you're outside. When I have a stormwater event, I like it to be raining so people can actually see the stormwater. So it's perfect to be doing an ozone and air quality day event when we're looking at high temperatures and facing potential pollution. So the last 2 days, we had exceedance of ozone here in the state of Delaware. Today is an ozone action day, and we'll find out tomorrow if we exceeded ozone here today as well. And it just really underscores, and I think it's important, this month, the month of May, is Asthma and Allergy Awareness Month, that we have children and we have people in sensitive population that today, yesterday, the day before, they look at the television stations, they see what the report is, and it's a big stop sign. We can't go outside because if we go outside, we can't breathe. And so what the Senator is doing on a national level, what Deb is doing with the American Lung Association, what Dr. Rizzo is doing, is really helping to raise awareness of the fact that with all the investments that we're doing here in Delaware, and we're doing it with the transportation sector, working with DelDOT, working with our municipal governments, our county governments, the investments that we're making with our industrial plants and with our power plants. If we did everything possible, and recognizing we still have some work to do here at home, we could do everything possible, we still wouldn't be able to meet air quality standards for the people in Delaware. And it really requires us to have national leadership. It really requires us to have the federal government, the EPA, who we have been calling on with a number of petitions and other things, to really look at the transport issue. How are we going to deal with that air that you talked about, Senator, that's coming across the country, and the pollutants that come with it and that are coming here, and on hot days today, like today, really have a measurable impact on our citizens that we are charged to represent. Now, the reason that we're doing it here at the MLK Air Monitoring Station is because this is how we get real data. You know, we intuitively can look at what's going on today and say, take a deep breath and say, air's probably not good. If I have asthma, maybe not today. I want to be out running around and playing. This helps us give us that scientific data to help decide what needs to be done and help to make our case that more needs to be done nationally. And so I want to thank Ali and his group for all the incredible work that they do, not only to help inform us as citizens of Delaware of what we're facing, but help to give us the information and data so that we can approach the national conversation well informed on how what's happening or not happening in the country is having an impact on us here in the state of Delaware. And so I want to thank the Senator for his leadership and his continued leadership. I'd like to thank Deb and Dr. Rizzo for the great work that they do on behalf of families and communities here in Delaware. And I really look forward to continuing to have this conversation and continue to work on things here in Delaware that we can do to help improve air quality, but continue to be a voice in the national conversation to ensure that we're doing everything possible nationally, both on climate change as well as on ozone to protect the people of Delaware. Thank you, and I'm going to turn it back over to Deb.
All right, thank you, Secretary, for stressing the importance of clean air here in Delaware and all the continuous work that you and DNREC have done to improve the air quality across the state. I'm just going to share some brief remarks on behalf of the American Lung Association in Delaware. Last month, the American Lung Association released its annual State of the Air report, which I'm happy to announce has some positive news. The report found that Delaware and states throughout the Mid-Atlantic have made even more progress in cleaning up the air pollution, confirming that the Clean Air Act does work. This year's report covers data that was collected during 2013 through 2015. And the metro area covering Newcastle County and Kent County, the greater Philadelphia area, which is it's part of, for the first time ever meets the national standard for year-round particle pollution. Newcastle County's level of ozone earned a failing grade in the report, but the level is a huge improvement. In fact, it is the best that the county has ever received in the histories of the report. The county has also improved significantly in its level of short-term particle pollution. Both Kent and Sussex counties again reported the lowest ever levels of ozone and year-round particle pollution and had no days of unhealthy spikes in particle pollution, which was a great accomplishment. Overall, the State of the Air 2017 report shows that Delaware has made great progress, but nationwide, too many people still breathe unhealthy levels of air pollution. Because of the Clean Air Act, we've seen ozone and year-round particle pollution levels improve in most places nationwide, but it really does not mean that our work is done. Even though the report found continued improvement in air quality, nearly 40% of Americans live in areas where the air quality is unhealthy, either for ozone or particle pollution, putting their health at risk. Delaware can and should continue its efforts to put more stringent regulations in place, but unless we continue to clean up pollution on a nationwide level, we will always have a problem here in Delaware. And I think you'll see that that's the continuing theme here, is that because of the air quality, our air quality is affected by pollution blowing across into Delaware from surrounding states. So without EPA's help, we have no control over that pollution. This is why the Federal Clean Air Act is essential to make sure families in Delaware and everywhere breathe clean air. Furthermore, scientists and experts from the National Institute of Health, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and well-respected research institutions across the nation tell us that climate change is already taking a toll on the health of many Americans today. It is particularly concerning for lung health right here in Delaware. Climate change drives warmer temperatures like we've seen in the past couple days, with the increases of risk of dangerous pollution in the air we breathe. Ozone and particle pollution are the most widespread pollutants and among the most dangerous. These pollutants trigger asthma attacks and early death. Particle pollution can also cause heart attacks and lung cancer. Hotter temperatures and stagnant air make ozone pollution more likely to form and harder to clean up. Wildfires, which in some areas are increasing in frequency and intensity due to climate change, can cause particle pollution. So Dr. Albert Rizzo witnesses this firsthand on the effects of air pollution on our public's health. And Dr. Rizzo has been a long time volunteer for the American Lung Association and serves as our organization's senior medical advisor. He's also chief of the pulmonary section at Christiana Care, so it's my pleasure to turn the program over to Dr. Rizzo.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Senator Carper and Secretary Garvin. As Deb said, I'm a pulmonologist here in Delaware. I'm section chief for Christiana Care. And unfortunately, every day that means I take care of patients who have lung diseases, COPD and asthma among the more common. In Delaware alone, there's about 70,000 children with lung diseases, 17,000 with asthma. And in COPD, there's about 54,000 patients in Delaware. We also have over 600 patients with lung cancer. Now, any lung disease starts to impair a patient's ability to breathe. If you add insult to that, which means going out on a day where the air is not good, that makes the impairment even worse. So on a daily basis, the last few days, when I've seen patients in my office, I have to go through the same litany I do every year around this time. If you're going to go out, try to do your errands early in the day, try not to spend too much time outside, and certainly if you're going to be more active, try to do it early in the day. Because breathing in ozone, breathing in the particle pollution that's been mentioned already, acts as an irritant to our airways. It's almost like a sunburn to the lining of our airways, the same way the sun burns our skin. What that means for patients with lung disease is they often have to use additional medications. Their rescue medications have to be handy. And even those who don't have lung disease feel it, as we've already mentioned. So going out to jog on a day 3 or 4 in the afternoon when the ozone is high is the worst thing you can do for your lungs, because you take the particles and the ozone in deeper to the lung and cause symptoms, certainly coughing, wheezing, and shortness of breath. And sometimes that may be the first start of somebody knowing that they have an underlying lung condition. We're not all immune to inhaling these types of particles. So anything we can do to improve the air quality is going to go a long way to making us all feel better. So that's why I really applaud what Senator Carper has done really over the years as a national leader. I look forward to working with Secretary Garvin in the months and years ahead to help make sure we're aware of the situation and do what we can to improve the situation. So I'll turn it back to Deb. Thank you.
Some of you know I like to work out. I like to exercise almost every day of my life. 3 days a week I lift weights. 2 days I ride a stationary bike inside, and then 2 days I run outside. I never like to run inside. And I usually run about 4 miles on Thursday mornings, and maybe 6 or 8 on Sunday mornings early.
He's trying to put us to shame, right?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Here's where I'm going with this. Yesterday I got up for my run. I felt good. And the first mile or so, I felt good. The second mile, not so good. I only ran 4 miles. But as I continued to run, I felt worse. And this almost is, I can't remember the last time this happened this year. But what you just said, what Sean just said about today, yesterday, being days when we've exceeded, was it ozone? Ozone. And just asking for like is the advice if you're going to run, particularly if you're going to run outside, run more often in the morning as opposed to the afternoon? Is that what we should be doing?
Yes, particularly for the ozone, right.
Okay, good. You learn something every day. Thank you, doctor. I'm glad there's a doctor not in the house, but right here by this contraption. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rizzo, for your passion and commitment to the fight for healthy air for all of us. So as a nation, we have made great progress, but we still have a long way to go, especially in the light of our changing climate. The bad news is that healthy air protections are under attack by special interests in Washington, D.C., and we must defend them to save lives here in Delaware and across the country. We are so thankful for the leadership of Senator Carper, who fights to defend the clean air protections every day, for the Secretary of Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control, Sean Garvin, who continues to lead the charge to improve air quality here in Delaware, and for Dr. Rizzo, who helps so many who are fighting the battle with lung disease, and for his passion to our mission, a world free of lung disease. The American Lung Association calls on President Trump, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt, and all members of Congress to fully fund, implement, and enforce the Clean Air Act for all air pollutants, including those that drive climate change, and make it harder to ensure that all Americans have healthy air.